You knew what that signature meant, and you did it anyway.
I signed to keep people safe, that's all.
Safe? You call this safe?
Ma'am,
Stay out of it.
you can blame me all you want, but the clock's still ticking.
8 a.m. I was sitting by the lake, sipping my black coffee, watching the morning mist drift lazily over the water when I heard the sound of engines, 4 giant charter buses tearing down my gravel driveway. They roared like thunder, shaking the stillness of my land, and before I could even stand up, 50 strangers piled out onto my private dock like they were stepping into a resort. They brought coolers, grills, fishing rods, like my family's 40-year legacy was some kind of public amusement park. And then she appeared, Veronica Blackwell, the self-proclaimed queen of Pine Ridge HOA, strutting down in $800 heels that immediately sank into the muddy shoreline. She waved her manicured hand and shrieked over the sound of diesel fumes. "Marcus, you cannot block community access. This is community property." Community property? My jaw tightened. For 18 months, this woman had been trying to steal my lakefront through fake surveys and legal manipulation. She thought she could bully me into submission with her lawyers and charm her way through the HOA board. What she didn't know was that I'm not just some retired firefighter with a fishing hobby. I'm the guy who reads property deeds for fun. I know every inch of my land better than anyone alive. And she was about to find out just how big a mistake she'd made. She thought she could turn my sanctuary into a tourist attraction. But she was about to lose everything: her throne, her reputation, her precious image. And I wasn't going to lift a finger. I'd just let the truth do the burning for me. My name's Marcus Presley, 45 years old, retired firefighter, and the last living heir to my grandfather's dream, this 2-acre piece of heaven on Clearwater Lake. When he passed away, I thought inheriting the property would finally give me peace. Quiet mornings by the dock, the smell of cedar oil still soaked into the boards he built with his own hands. A simple life after years of running into burning buildings. But peace? That's the last thing I got. I'd invested everything into preserving this place. My pension, $180,000, to buy up the small surrounding parcels and secure my family's lakefront. Another $25,000 went into fixing the dock and restoring the fish habitats my grandfather once tended like a garden. Every morning, I'd sit there, coffee in hand, breathing in the sweet scent of honeysuckle that wrapped around the edges of my land. It was sacred to me, a piece of my past I thought I could protect. But Pine Ridge wasn't the same community it used to be. It used to be simple: 47 homes, regular people, working families, retirees. $180 a month in dues for road repairs and basic maintenance. Nothing fancy. Then came the wealth. The newcomers. People who thought money gave them the right to rewrite the rules. And leading that charge was Veronica, 52, perfectly polished. A real estate agent who treated the HOA like her personal PR firm. Her entire career was built on selling a fantasy, an exclusive lakefront lifestyle. Except the problem was, she didn't own the lakefront. I did, but that didn't stop her from using it. It started small. 6 months after I finished the dock renovations, I caught her showing my property to a couple dressed like they just stepped out of a luxury home magazine. They were taking pictures, laughing, pointing at my dock like it belonged to them. I walked over, coffee still steaming in my hand. "Excuse me," I said. "This is private property." Veronica's smile froze me, cold, calculated. "Oh, Marcus," she said with a laugh that could chill lava. "I'm just showing the Pattersons our community's exclusive lake access. They're considering buying the Morrison house." "Exclusive community access?" I nearly laughed in her face. "This dock has been private since 1978, I told her. "It's not community anything." But she didn't care. She tilted her head, fake sympathy dripping from every word. "Well, technically private," she said. "But we've always had community traditions here. I've been advertising our lakefront lifestyle for years." Advertising. That word hit me like a punch. She wasn't just lying. She was profiting from it. Selling homes based on access to property she didn't own. That's not just unethical. It's illegal. A real estate agent can lose their license for a misrepresentation like that. But Veronica was bold, dangerous, and apparently untouchable. The next few months turned my quiet mornings into chaos. She started hosting lake lifestyle tours every weekend. Groups of 8, 10, 12 strangers wandering through my yard while she bragged about amenities our community offered. She even started posting photos of my dock on the HOA Facebook group with captions like, "Enjoy our beautiful waterfront living." I was furious, but it got worse. I learned she was charging premium prices for homes near my property, promising exclusive lake access to her buyers. 3 families had already come to me angry, realizing they'd been lied to. She wasn't just trespassing anymore. She was defrauding people, using my home, my memories, my inheritance to build her empire. The breaking point came one Saturday afternoon. I came home from grocery shopping to find 15 strangers barbecuing on my lawn. Cars were parked everywhere. Smoke filled the air. Kids were jumping off my dock like it was a public pool. And there she was again, clipboard in hand, giving a property tour to another rich couple. "And this," she said proudly, gesturing toward my dock, "is our premium community lakefront. Perfect for entertaining, boosting property value." I could taste the anger in my mouth, metallic and sharp. That dock was my grandfather's legacy, and she was using it as a sales pitch. That day, I realized this wasn't neighbor drama anymore. This was war. She was committing fraud right in front of me, and I was done playing nice. 3 weeks later, she created something called the Lakefront Access Committee. Just her and 2 neighbors she'd bribed with reduced HOA dues. Their first official act? Hosting a welcome to Pine Ridge party for some new doctor moving in. Location: my dock. Time: Saturday. Permission asked? None. I only found out because she posted it on the HOA Facebook group, complete with photos of my property and the caption, "Join us at our beautiful community lakefront for Dr. Hawkins' welcome celebration. Bring a dish to share." I read the comments in disbelief, so excited to finally use the lake access. This is why we pay premium prices. My grandfather's dock had become Veronica's marketing tool, but this time, I didn't stop it. I decided to let her hang herself with her own arrogance. That Saturday, I sat on my porch with a cold beer and my phone, ready to record everything. At 2 p.m., the cars arrived. Not 5, not 10, 25 cars parked on my lawn like it was a public lot. Kids running wild, people blasting music, setting up tables. Someone even brought a bounce house on my dock, and then she spotted me. Veronica, dressed in white pants and gold jewelry, clipboard clutched like a sword, strutting toward me with that fake sweet smile. "Marcus," she called out, voice dripping with condescension. "Come join the party." She had no idea she was walking straight into her own downfall. Everyone's grinning, cheering, plates of barbecue in their hands, as if they've just been granted entry to some exclusive lakeside club. Everyone's so excited to finally enjoy our community amenity. Veronica beams, her fake sweetness coating every word like syrup gone sour. "Community amenity?" I set down my beer, stood up slowly, and looked her dead in the eye. "Veronica," I said, my voice calm but sharp, "this is private property. You're hosting a party on my dock without my permission." Her smile didn't even flinch, but her voice, her real voice, cut through the crowd like venom. "Don't embarrass yourself, Marcus. Mrs. Patterson always welcomed community use. We have traditional access rights." Traditional access rights. The phrase almost made me laugh, because this was where all those years of reading property law for fun finally paid off. I'd spent decades around lawyers and investigators during my firefighting years. I knew exactly how legal snakes slither. And this was pure fiction. "Actually," I said, pulling my phone from my pocket, "that's not how property law works." A few heads turned my way. I opened the county records app and tapped through to my official survey. Easements require explicit documentation and typically some form of compensation. Funny thing, I glanced up, letting my voice carry across the lawn. I can't find any recorded easements for community lake access in our HOA records. The sound of the bounce house deflating in the background was the perfect soundtrack to her ego deflating right along with it. Conversations died down. A few people put down their drinks. "I've also been looking through your listings, Veronica," I continued, stepping closer, my voice tightening. "You've been advertising exclusive community lakefront access for houses that have zero legal water rights." Her tan face went pale, so pale it almost matched her white pants. But the real blow came from behind her. "Excuse me," said a calm, steady voice. "Dr. Patricia Hawkins, the guest of honor." She stepped forward, phone in hand, her expression somewhere between disbelief and fury. "I'm so sorry about all of this," she said to me, "but Veronica told me lake access was included with my home purchase. I asked her multiple times. She said it was all documented and approved, and just like that, the entire mood of the party died. The laughter, the music, the kids, gone silent. This wasn't a misunderstanding anymore. This was fraud. Dr. Hawkins," I said softly, "would you mind showing me what was promised?" Veronica lunged forward, panic flashing through her perfect posture. "That's not necessary. This is all a huge misunderstanding." But Patricia ignored her and pulled up the listing on her phone. "Here, it says it right here. Exclusive community lakefront access. Private dock privileges. Premium waterfront lifestyle amenities included." Each word felt like a nail in Veronica's professional coffin. The crowd murmured, and I could see the shock spreading through every face there. Parents started calling for their kids. Neighbors were whispering, shaking their heads. Someone finally turned off the blaring music. "Veronica," I said, loud enough for the whole crowd, "you've been advertising amenities you don't own to inflate property values, and everyone here just witnessed it." Her mask cracked wide open. "Fine," she snapped, her voice rising, sharp and ugly. "If you want to be a selfish, antisocial neighbor, then I'll call the county about your unpermitted dock modifications. I'll have them investigate your fish habitats too. They're probably environmental violations." That's when I smiled, because she just made a public threat in front of 25 witnesses while my phone was still recording everything. "Please do," I said calmly. "I'd love for the county to inspect my fully permitted improvements, and maybe while they're here, they can investigate your fraudulent real estate practices." She spun around, stomping off, her heels hammering against my dock like angry gunshots. The guests scattered in awkward silence. Round 1, Marcus. But Veronica wasn't done. Oh no. The next 48 hours proved she was far more dangerous when cornered. By Monday morning, a new post appeared on the HOA Facebook group. Emergency Community Meeting. Topic: Lakefront Access Equity Issues. I nearly choked on my coffee. The agenda she uploaded read like a corporate coup. Proposed special assessment. $75,000 for community lake rights acquisition. 75 grand. To buy rights to my land. It wasn't just the audacity, it was the humiliation campaign. She added a little note at the bottom. All residents welcome to discuss how individual selfishness impacts community harmony and property values. Translation: let's all gang up on Marcus until he caves. Tuesday night came fast. The Pine Ridge Community Center was packed tighter than a fire drill. 43 residents, the biggest turnout in HOA history. The smell of burnt coffee and disinfectant hung thick in the air. Veronica stood at the front, PowerPoint glowing behind her like she was running for office. "Friends and neighbors," she began, with fake sincerity dripping from every syllable, "we have an opportunity to secure what should have always been ours." She clicked to the next slide, a photo of my dock, labeled Proposed Community Asset. I clenched my jaw as she continued, spinning a web of manipulation. "For too long, one individual has hoarded our community's most valuable amenity. The previous owner, Mrs. Patterson, always welcomed community use. But now," she gestured dramatically toward me, "we have someone who wants to build walls instead of bridges." The crowd murmured. Some newer residents nodded, completely buying her performance. She was good, dangerous good. And then came her big move. "To provide clarity," she said proudly, "I've brought a property law consultant, Robert Michaels." Out stepped a tall, slick man in an expensive suit, holding a leather briefcase. He looked like every lawyer who'd ever tried to bluff a jury with a smile and a pile of jargon. "Based on my preliminary review," he said, adjusting his glasses, "there appear to be discrepancies in the property boundaries. Historical usage patterns may have established implied easements that predate current ownership." Ah, there it was. Legal smoke and mirrors. I'd seen this trick before. Toss around terms like implied easement and hope no one actually knows what it means. But I did. Implied easements, I said loudly, interrupting, require continuous, open, and hostile use for at least 20 years under Virginia law. Mrs. Patterson occasionally let kids fish. That's not hostile use, it's being neighborly. The air in the room shifted. People began glancing at each other, murmuring. Mr. Michaels cleared his throat, trying to recover. Well, the county surveyor has agreed to conduct a boundary reassessment to clarify any irregularities. Translation: they were planning a fake survey, a fabricated reassessment to steal my land on paper. Then, out of nowhere, Dr. Hawkins raised her hand, confusion written all over her face. Excuse me, but didn't you say the lake access was already fully legal and documented when I bought my house? Veronica's mask faltered. Well, yes, but this is just to formalize those arrangements. Traditional access, interrupted Frank Morrison, a neighbor I'd once pulled out of his frozen driveway last winter. His voice was steady, authoritative. Veronica, I've lived here 20 years. Mrs. Patterson let neighborhood kids fish sometimes, sure, but nobody ever claimed community rights to that dock. The shift was instant. You could feel it. The room turned against her. The fact remains, Veronica snapped, her composure cracking, that property values are being suppressed by one resident's selfish refusal to cooperate. Homes near lake access sell for 15 to 20% more. And there it was. The confession, the motive. I stood up slowly, the creak of the metal chair echoing through the silence. Veronica, I said evenly, you just admitted to using my property to inflate your commissions. That's real estate fraud, and it's grounds for permanent license revocation. You could have heard a pin drop. Even the fluorescent lights above seemed to hum quieter. I've documented every one of your listings, I added. 18 MLS entries advertising lake access that doesn't exist. Mr. Michaels suddenly found his briefcase fascinating. He started inching toward the exit. Then came the death blow from her own team. Susan Walsh, our treasurer, stood up, trembling. Veronica, she said, I never approved any payment for a property law consultant. Those funds came from our emergency reserve, without board authorization. The room exploded. Gasps, whispers, outrage. Veronica's empire was collapsing in real time. And yet, she wasn't done. Because 1 week later, I woke up to the rumble of trucks in my driveway. Not near it, in it. 3 of them. Event planning crews unloading sound systems, tents, even a portable stage. She was planning something bigger, something reckless. And this time, I wasn't just going to fight back. I was going to end it. The morning sunlight hit my coffee just as the roar of a generator shattered the calm. And in that moment, I realized peace in Pine Ridge was officially dead. My property, the one my grandfather built with his bare hands, had turned into a carnival ground. Strangers trampled the grass he planted, laughter mixed with diesel fumes, and signs reading Lakefront Festival, sponsored by Pine Ridge HOA, were nailed into my trees. For a few seconds, I couldn't move. It felt like watching someone burn a family photo right in front of me. I called out, trying to keep my voice steady, "What's going on here?" The man with the clipboard smiled like this happened every weekend. Community festival, sir. Full lakefront activation by noon. Lakefront activation. Like my dock was a mall property. I asked who authorized it, and of course, it was her. Veronica Blackwell. The same woman who tried to rewrite property law now had media coverage coming to film her community achievement. The Facebook notification confirmed it, a glowing post from Veronica herself. Pine Ridge Festival, live music, food trucks, and family fun at our beautiful community lakefront. $50 per family. Proceeds for neighborhood improvements. My name wasn't mentioned, but my address was. She'd officially sold tickets to trespass on my land. I called the vendors, the event planners, even Channel 7 News, and what I found made my stomach twist. She'd used forged signatures, fake authorizations, and the HOA's tax ID to rent out my property. This wasn't a misunderstanding anymore. It was organized fraud. By noon, cars lined up 3 streets deep, kids running across my lawn, families setting up lawn chairs like they owned the place. Then came the golf cart, white and red, decorated with ribbons. Veronica stood on it like a politician on parade, camera crews following her every move. "Welcome to Pine Ridge's inaugural Lakefront Festival," she announced, pretending to choke up. "Today, we celebrate community." 300 people cheered. My grandfather's dock, his pride, was now her stage. That was it. I grabbed my thermos, my chair, and my phone. I walked out and sat right in front of the dock, live streaming everything. "Good morning, everyone," I said, smiling like a man about to start a fireworks show. Beautiful day for a festival, especially one built entirely on fraud. Silence. Every head turned. The reporter's camera swung toward me as Veronica's face froze mid-smile. "What are you doing?" she hissed through her megaphone. "Joining my community," I said calmly. "On my private property, without permission, using forged contracts." Murmurs spread through the crowd. I held up the county's documentation. "Just got off the phone with the county inspector. Turns out listing a private address on commercial permits is a felony. So, congratulations, everyone. You're attending an illegal event." Someone shouted, "Wait, we paid for lake access." Another yelled, "Are we trespassing right now?" Veronica tried to speak, but the noise drowned her out. People demanding refunds, reporters capturing every second. And that's when I twisted the knife. "You've all been scammed. The woman in charge here has been selling fake property rights for years." Veronica's fake smile cracked. The reporters swarmed her, and the festival crowd turned into a storm. I could almost hear the sound of her reputation collapsing. But 3 days later, the real storm hit. My friend David, an attorney, called with the kind of voice I had only heard after fatal fires. "Marcus, you better sit down," he said. "We dug through the HOA's finances. She's been collecting $3,000 from every home sale. Called it a community lake access fee, $45,000 stolen." I felt the blood drain from my face. But David wasn't done. "She also insured your property, your dock, under the HOA's name. That's felony insurance fraud. The company's about to void your entire community policy. If anyone gets hurt, nobody is covered. Mortgage companies will call their loans. People could lose their homes in 60 days. My hands trembled. She hadn't just stolen money. She'd put 47 families' futures at risk. "What do we do?" I asked. "The nuclear option," David replied. "FBI referral, state attorney general, full media exposure. It's federal RICO territory now." I looked out at the lake, still, cold, and quiet. The same lake that had witnessed everything. "Then let's burn her empire down," I said. For the first time in months, the morning air smelled like victory instead of violation. I stood by the window, fingers tracing the faded ink of my grandfather's signature on that 40-year-old deed, the document that started it all. "David," I said quietly, the edge in my voice sharper than I intended, "let's end her." That was the moment everything shifted. The hunter had just become the hunted. Within 6 hours, my quiet living room looked like an FBI command post. Laptops, property maps, financial printouts, the entire space pulsed with that tense, electric energy of people preparing to dismantle a criminal empire. David arrived first, 2 briefcases in hand, his usual calm replaced with the gleam of a lawyer who'd found his perfect storm. "We've got confirmation," he said. "The state attorney general's office and the FBI's financial crimes unit have been tracking similar fraud cases across 3 states. Veronica just made their priority list." Then came Susan Walsh, our HOA treasurer, walking in like a retired accountant on a mission from God. She spread 3 years' worth of bank statements across my kitchen table, every line highlighted, annotated, color-coded. $23,000 in unauthorized legal fees, she began, her voice steady but cold. $8,000 for community improvements, all benefiting her own street. And here's the real kicker. She tapped the paper hard enough to leave a dent. Systematic transfers from the HOA fund into a private shell account under her name. But our ace was Agent Patricia Thompson, State Insurance Fraud Division, the kind of woman who walked in with quiet authority and left with people in handcuffs. "Mr. Presley," she said, shaking my hand firmly, "your documentation connects everything. Veronica Blackwell is running a multi-state fraud network." She opened her laptop, and the screen glowed with a map: Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia, each pin marking one of Veronica's crimes. Same pattern, same victims. Infiltrate the HOA, fake community ownership, collect illegal fees, and rewrite insurance policies to lower premiums. Organized, methodical, ruthless. Total theft across states? $180,000. Estimated insurance fraud damage? $2.3 million. But her biggest mistake wasn't stealing money. It was underestimating a man who'd spent 20 years learning how to find the source of a fire and snuff it out completely. "What's our timeline?" David asked. Agent Thompson didn't hesitate. "RICO prosecution, federal jurisdiction. If we move fast, we can freeze her assets before she transfers them offshore." I walked to my whiteboard, a habit I'd never shaken from my firefighting days, and began outlining the plan like a tactical response. "We go simultaneous," I said. "No warnings, no delays. We hit her on every front: federal referral, emergency asset freeze, state attorney general coordination, and full media exposure." Susan raised her hand, voice tight with worry. "And the community? Their mortgages, their insurance. Someone has to protect them." "That's our trap," I said. "We call an emergency HOA meeting. Invite local press. She walks in thinking it's just another PR stunt, and walks out in handcuffs." Agent Thompson smiled thinly. "Federal agents will be there. Warrants ready." The room fell silent except for the hum of laptops and the scratch of pens. Every sound felt like the countdown to impact. I looked out the window, past the fading sunset toward my grandfather's dock, that piece of wood in history that started all this chaos. "She thinks she's playing neighborhood politics," I said quietly. "She has no idea she's walking into a federal sting." By nightfall, everything was in motion. Evidence duplicated, filings drafted, news contacts alerted. We had 48 hours before the meeting, 48 hours until the woman who terrorized our neighborhood faced the full weight of the law. But predators don't go down quietly. The next morning, I stepped outside and felt my stomach drop. Every single one of my boundary markers, 12 steel stakes hammered deep into the earth, gone. Not broken, not bent, removed with surgical precision, like ghosts had stolen them. That metallic taste of rage filled my mouth again. This wasn't vandalism. It was a message. "I can erase your lines." By noon, the message turned into war. A certified envelope arrived. 20 pages of pure legal venom, smelling faintly of expensive cologne. A cease and desist from her new attorney, Harrison Webb, a white-collar pit bull who specialized in burying truth under paperwork. The letter accused me of harassment, emotional distress, and malicious interference. Demanded silence or face $500,000 in lawsuits. Classic predator tactic: scare the victim into submission. But then came the lowest blow. That afternoon, my security feed lit up. Veronica's teenage son, Tyler, on my property, swinging a crowbar at my grandfather's fish habitats while she sat in her BMW, recording the destruction like it was some neighborhood cleanup event. He even live-streamed it. #cleaning our lake. Community property belongs to everyone. The comments were cheering him on. The sound of splintering wood felt like a gut punch. I called it in. Deputy Rodriguez showed up, calm and professional, until he flipped open his notepad. "Mr. Presley," he said carefully. "Ms. Blackwell already filed a harassment complaint. Claims you've been stalking her family." My blood ran cold. She'd preemptively set the stage, planting evidence, twisting reality. Exactly how professional arsonists cover their tracks before the fire burns down the house. She thought she could drown me in lies, but she had no idea the flood that was coming for her. By the time the HOA meeting began, the air inside the community center was charged with the kind of anticipation you could almost taste, part disbelief, part vindication. The same people who had once whispered behind my back, questioning my sanity, now stood shoulder to shoulder, clutching folders of evidence, waiting to see justice unfold. Cameras flashed as reporters whispered introductions, their microphones trained on the stage where Agent Thompson stood beside the state attorney general's representative. I caught sight of Veronica being escorted through the double doors, her wrists bound, her designer blazer slightly wrinkled from the handcuffs. The collective gasp that rippled through the crowd was almost symphonic. For the first time, people saw the monster behind the mask of neighborhood leadership. Agent Thompson spoke first, her voice calm but sharp enough to slice through the tension. This morning, federal agents executed an arrest warrant for Veronica Lynn Blackwell, president of the Pine Ridge Homeowners Association, on multiple counts of mail fraud, wire fraud, insurance fraud, and racketeering under federal RICO statutes. Murmurs swept through the room, followed by the kind of silence that only comes when truth finally replaces fear. I watched the same neighbors who'd once defended her now struggle to reconcile the person they thought they knew with the criminal standing in front of them. When my turn came to speak, I walked up to the microphone and took a deep breath. The room felt heavy, not with sadness, but with release. This isn't just about money, I began, my voice steady. It's about trust. It's about the families who worked hard to build homes, only to be manipulated by someone who thought power made her untouchable. I glanced toward the front row where Agent Thompson nodded subtly, affirming that justice had truly arrived. My grandfather bought this land 40 years ago, I continued. He taught me that community means looking out for each other, not exploiting one another. We lost sight of that when we let fear silence us, but not anymore. A few people clapped quietly at first, then louder, until the applause grew into a standing ovation that echoed off the community hall's wooden beams. Veronica tried to speak as she was led out, her voice trembling between rage and denial, but nobody was listening anymore. The same community she had controlled through intimidation now turned its back in unison. Outside, the autumn sun dipped low over the lake, painting the water gold, a reflection of peace finally restored. As I watched the federal vehicles drive away, a strange calm settled over me. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was fighting fires. I felt like I'd finally put one out for good. I turned toward David, Susan, and Agent Thompson standing beside me. We did it, I said quietly. She's done. Thompson smiled, the corners of her eyes softening. No, Marcus. You did it. You stood up when everyone else was too afraid. I looked back at the lake my grandfather once called his sanctuary, now free of deception, greed, and corruption. The wind carried the faint sound of laughter from the children playing nearby, a sound that used to remind me of everything we'd lost. Now it reminded me of everything we'd saved. Justice hadn't just come to Pine Ridge, it had been reborn there. The air inside the hall was thick with tension, that strange mix of fear and curiosity that settles when people sense they're about to witness something historic. The smell of nervous sweat mingled with industrial carpet cleaner as whispers rippled through the crowd. Everyone had come to see what would happen next, to see if justice would finally catch up with the woman who had ruled their community through intimidation and deceit. Veronica hadn't been seen since her arrest, but her attorney, Harrison Webb, sat stiffly in the front row, looking like a man who'd realized too late he'd backed the wrong side of history. I stood near the back, hands in my pockets, heart steady. For the first time in years, I wasn't angry, I was ready. When the doors opened at exactly 6:05, Veronica made her entrance. She walked in wearing an immaculate navy blue suit, flanked by two private security guards she'd clearly hired with whatever funds she could still access. Her chin was raised, her expression defiant, but her trembling hands told the real story. The cameras clicked, recording every second of what was about to become her public undoing. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice loud, brittle, desperate to sound in control. "I've called this meeting to address the malicious lies being spread by certain disruptive residents." Her words echoed through the hall like a bad performance, one final attempt to rewrite the story. "For 6 years, I've devoted my life to improving this community, increasing your property values. And what do I get in return? False accusations, harassment, a conspiracy to destroy me." From the front row, Dr. Hawkins raised her hand timidly. "Veronica, are the federal charges real?" Her answer was pure theater. "Fabricated," she snapped, "created by a vindictive neighbor who can't stand the idea of a woman in power." That was my cue. I rose slowly, every eye in the room turning toward me, and pulled out the thick binder Agent Thompson had handed me that morning. The click of it opening silenced even the whispers. "Since Veronica seems confused about the facts," I began evenly, "let me help clarify them." I flipped a page, letting the papers rustle. Veronica Blackwell was arrested yesterday morning on 17 federal charges: mail fraud, wire fraud, insurance fraud, racketeering under the RICO statutes. For 3 years, she's been systematically defrauding every family in this room. Gasps erupted around us. She's stolen $45,000 in fake lake access fees, filed false insurance claims that endangered your mortgages, and she's done this before, in Tennessee and North Carolina, fleeing both times before prosecution. Agent Thompson stepped forward, badge gleaming. Mr. Presley is correct. Ms. Blackwell is currently out on a $500,000 bond. Her assets are frozen. Federal restitution proceedings are underway. The room exploded, angry voices, disbelief, outrage. She took my money. My insurance could have been canceled. She did this somewhere else? Veronica grabbed the microphone, eyes wild. This is a witch hunt, she screamed. I built this place. I gave you everything. You stole from us. Janet Rodriguez shouted back, voice breaking with fury. You took our trust and turned it into your personal ATM. The final blow came from Susan Walsh, who stood holding 3 years of financial records. You embezzled $23,000 from community funds, Veronica. You filed false claims. You lied to every single person here. Veronica froze. Her gaze darted around the room, searching for a single friendly face, a single lie. She found none. Fine, she shrieked, throwing the microphone so hard it squealed through the speakers. Fine, you want to destroy me? I'll take this entire community down with me. But Agent Thompson was already stepping forward, voice like steel. Veronica Blackwell, you are under arrest for violation of bond conditions and threats against federal witnesses. The sharp click of handcuffs rang out like a bell announcing the end of her reign. Applause erupted, 200 people cheering as Veronica's empire crumbled in front of the cameras. I took the microphone she dropped and spoke over the roar. Ladies and gentlemen, I said, voice steady, your community is officially free. That night, as dawn crept over Clearwater Lake, I sat on my grandfather's dock with a mug of coffee that tasted like justice. The golden light reflected across the water he once called sacred, and for the first time, it felt peaceful again. 6 months later, the transformation was undeniable. Veronica had pleaded guilty to avoid 20 years in prison, sentenced to 4 and ordered to pay full restitution. Every dollar returned, every fraud exposed. Her name was erased from every board, every license revoked in 12 states. Our community rebuilt itself from the ashes she left behind. Susan became our new president, Dr. Hawkins the treasurer, and every dollar spent was now publicly listed for all to see. For the first time, trust returned. Families smiled at each other again. The insurance company even lowered our premiums once her fraudulent claims were gone. But the real miracle wasn't financial, it was human. The victims became protectors. Janet started a scholarship fund for kids dreaming of law enforcement. Frank created a neighborhood safety program. Dr. Hawkins opened a legal aid fund for homeowners fighting corrupt HOAs. And me? I became a certified HOA ombudsman, helping other communities stand up against people like her. I even wrote a book, How I Beat HOA Fraud and Saved My Community. The proceeds go to scholarships for students fighting for property rights. Now, every morning, I sit on this dock, watching the mist lift off the water, hearing the laughter of kids fishing nearby. My phone buzzes. It's Agent Thompson. New case in North Carolina. The text reads, Need your help. I smile, sipping my coffee. Always, I type back, because this peace, this justice, is what we fought for. What started as a property dispute became a story of redemption. A reminder that sometimes, standing up to one bully protects an entire community. So tell me, what's your HOA nightmare story? Drop it below. I investigate the wildest cases, expose corruption, and help good people fight back. Because justice, it doesn't just feel good. It smells like honeysuckle, tastes like morning coffee, and sounds like freedom.